Hello, Katrina. How are you?
I am so good. I'm doing so well. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for agreeing to participate in this conversation with Black Women Who Coach. Let's get started. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, so I am a three-time career changer. So I have definitely had a windy road to get to the place that I'm at now. But I am now a career break and sabbatical coach, and I have been doing this for a little over 4 years now. I'm living nomadically. I have been for the last 3 years, which I think really aligns with a lot of what my clients are seeking, which is that sense of freedom, right? And it might not look the same as my freedom, but I think that sense of freedom from the rat race, from the grind of life, and just the sense that they can break away and really take time for themselves. And so, like I said, my journey has been windy and twisty, but I had always had this burning desire to become a world traveler. But at 29, I'd been to 0 countries. So you can imagine that was kind of a disconnect. So I was able to shift things. And, in the last 12 years, I've traveled to 40 countries. And I really credit so much of my path and my trajectory on really getting clear about what was important to me. And, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a little bit, but I had a life coach as well, which is kind of how I found out about coaching. But it's working with my mind and really opening myself up to unlock more of my possibility has kind of changed my life. And so now I spend my time helping people, helping women, especially change theirs. And it is such an amazing and rewarding thing to do. And I've created, programs to help people quit their jobs in a very sort of thoughtful way and plan a break that will lead to an incredibly successful outcome. But they get to determine, right, what success looks like for them. But I think it's about taking time to really understand what it means for you so that you can thrive through that change and that transition and then create an even better next chapter.
Well, you used a word that is one of my favorite words, and people who follow me know, which is free and freedom. Because I always tell people when they ask me what I do, I tell them I'm in the getting Black women free business because that's my primary interest is helping women, especially Black women, to realize freedom in this life and that it's not something you have to wait to experience until you're 65, which is what a lot of us are taught that we have to work ourselves to death. And then if we're lucky enough, we live long enough, we might get to go somewhere and see something.
Yeah.
And so it does excite me to see people doing the kind of work that you're doing, which is, helping people unlock the keys to freedom earlier and sooner if that is what they want to do. So, can you tell me what inspired you to become a coach?
Yeah, so I think the seeds had been planted quite early. So my dad, he has a master's in psychology and he's a very inquisitive person. And so I think I inherited some of that. And so I love to ask questions. I've always been curious about people, like what makes you tick? Why do you say that? And so I think my inherent sense of curiosity mixed with a desire to really advise people in sort of like my younger years planted some really strong seeds. But in 2011, I was in career number two. I had just gotten an MBA. I was, $60,000 in debt, feeling like I'd made this irrevocable decision, but also feeling like my life was headed in the complete opposite direction of where I wanted to go. And I felt so lost and everything felt so impossible that I no longer felt like I was capable of turning the ship around and finding the path I really wanted to be on and getting myself on that path. And so I had someone reach out to me and connect me with a life coach, which I didn't really know exactly what a life coach was. I'd heard inklings of it. I mean, it was 2011, so 10 years ago, but she changed my whole life, right? She helped me change how I think about things, change how I see things, change how I approach life and what I believe. And so for me, that was so powerful. I ended up taking a career break, came back to the corporate world 20 months later, paid off $42,000 worth of debt in like less than 2 years, and then decided like, this is my turn, right? It's my time, it's my turn. And so when I was debt free and that burden was gone, I decided to lean into my certification. So I got certified as a life coach, and then I started helping people find the freedom and just the possibility that I had found.
That is I love what you said about the fact that your coach changed your life because I tell people that all the time that I had a coach. She was an executive. She is an executive coach, and that I don't think I would be sitting in Mexico now happily, if it weren't for her, as well as my business coach that I started working with once I decided that I wanted to and had to figure out, because money is the thing. It's probably the number one thing that makes people feel that they can't do the things that they want. And especially if you want to move abroad, it's the number one reason that, when I talk to people, that they say, why? So I think it's really great that you can like give people practical examples, including yourself, of what you did in order to get out of what I call the trap, the money trap
Yeah.
that America sets from the time you go to college, right? And then you're stuck, right? Because you have this debt. Education is not free in America, and so you put yourself in debt, and then you're like trapped. You feel trapped, because of the student loans and the expenses that you have to pay back. I mean, a lot of people don't even get to go on vacation because of some of these things, much less consider traveling. So why would you say, in your opinion, coaching is important, and specifically the type of coaching that you provide? Why would you say it's important?
I love this question. It's so important, everyone, because we can't see our own blind spots. So I think, when I really think about the value that coaches bring, coaches have coaches, people that coach. Myself, I have had coaches, because we're humans and our brains want to be human and do human things, which means that we can't see our own crap. Right. And so I think that, coaches provide this amazing opportunity to see your life in a different way and to get past your blind spots, and for you to get out of your own way, right? There are so many things that, especially as Black women, that feel like they're stacked against us, right? And it's like that idea that we're working so hard just to try to get to some level playing field, but there are ways that our own brain is sabotaging us too. And so as much as we can lean in and really get out of our own way, or learn how to use our mind as the amazing asset that it is to unlock our potential, so that we can find our version of free, our version of happy, our version of thriving. I think that's so important. And for me, in my own experience, I think working with coaches, having had a coach to begin with and being a coach, it's about accessing more joy. It's about accessing more peace. It's about accessing more self-acceptance, and it's about accessing more fun.
Yeah.
All good things, right?
Yep. I love you. I keep using my favorite words, freedom and thriving, because I always tell people I do not believe that life is supposed to be an endurance test. I don't believe where you work, your workplace is supposed to be something that you endure every day and long to leave. And so many of us are in workplaces and in situations that we feel like we can't get out of them. And having someone, as you said, help you get out of your own way, which is one of the things my coach helped me with, and holds you accountable, right? Is extremely helpful in terms of figuring out what you really want for yourself, and then having a realistic plan for how you're going to get there. But having someone not only help you do that, but then help you be accountable for what it is that you say that you're going to do, and someone who kind of understands you and your experience and what it is that you're dealing with, which is a great segue to my other question, which is, why does having a Black woman coach matter in the first place? I'm creating this directory of Black women coaches because I personally feel that it's important for Black women to have that as a resource, to have somebody that looks like them, to help them on these life journeys that many of us are on. Why, in your view, does having a Black woman coach matter, and what's the value add in your opinion?
Yeah. So, I think, there are many coaches that are well-intentioned, but I think there is this pervasive thing of spiritual bypassing that can happen, where it's much more convenient to just believe that everyone doesn't have what you have because of their thoughts, right? Your thoughts create your reality. Therefore, the easy answer is that you don't have what you want because of your thoughts. And I think white privilege, right, and white supremacy are baked into the world that we live in. So to deny the structures that kind of exist and that we're all sort of having to navigate and sort of live in, it really, I think, does harm, right? To bypass somebody's experience and to not really be able to connect with where they truly are. So I think one of the most beneficial things a coach can do is help you feel seen, because I think that the first thing for you to release all of the baggage and the stuff that you're carrying and the heavy things that you're trying to work through is to feel like this person sitting in front of me like sees me, right? They see me, they hear me. And I think that, you know, it's important for there to be Black women coaching other Black women, because you need to feel like when you are showing up that you don't have to explain or validate every experience that you've had, that this person, you can say your experience and this person can meet you where you are and take you on a journey from there, versus you having to educate them or feel like you need to validate your experience or prove that, you know, what you've gone through is true. And, you know, I've had many coaches, not a whole ton, but I've had several, and I've had some really fantastic white coaches. And I have gotten so much out of that. But I definitely think at different points in time, there has always been a moment where we butt up against a belief that I have and that I'm struggling with, that they don't really have the understanding of. I'm not saying they have to have the same belief, but to even have the capacity, right, to understand why I have that belief or what might be behind it. You know, I think one of the thoughts was just being like, well, it's just like racism is kind of a thing, but it's not really a thing. Like you can choose to be affected by it or not. And it's like, well, do I choose that or do I not? You know, like how I choose to move forward, that's my choice, but do I choose to be affected or not? And then I remember specifically a different coach had said to me once, you know, like you just need to believe that you deserve it. And it sounds like such a simple thing, but growing up as a, you know, I'm biracial. My dad is Black, my mom is white, and my mom's family disowned her when she married my dad. And so, you know, like we were uninvited to my aunt's wedding and to my grandfather's funeral. And so as a young kid, like I was very aware that life doesn't give you just what you deserve. Like that's not a concept that I was familiar with. And so for her, it's like, you know, you deserve it, so believe you can have it. And I'm not saying that's even wrong. Like maybe I do deserve all these things, but for me to get to that place would take like multiple steps versus just being like, oh yeah, okay, like I have proof that I can just deserve it. And then
Well, it's the thing is that, and I mean, and I've also worked with coaches who are white, who I feel were competent and well-meaning is the word that I like to use. However, I always, you know, to me, it's not just about what you deserve. It's about the society in which you get to function and whether someone has the ability to acknowledge that that society doesn't work the same for everyone. And I think that a person can say you know you have to believe you deserve it because that worked for them, right?
yeah.
And just believing really hard was good enough. But for some of us, that's not really the way that it works. And so, you know, having someone who has a lived experience that is similar to yours, because we're not monolithic as Black people and even as Black women, but there is a shared experience where you don't even have to explain a lot of things because people they know. You know what I mean? When you say about
Yeah.
being seen, they know we see each other because we're experiencing similar things. And so for me, in my experience, there were a lot of things that I was dealing with in my workplace. And some of them were even hard to articulate because sometimes people make you feel that it's you and that it's, you know, the things that you feel are happening to you are not real. And so being able to talk to someone who was able to finish my sentences and know what I was saying and that what I was saying was true and validate me, which is the word that you use that I love, and validate my experience and
Mm-hmm.
know you're not crazy and know this is not right is something that we don't always get. And so it's to have someone do that for me was a very affirming thing at that time because I was really like, well, maybe it is me. But, you know, I don't think that, you know, this
Mm-hmm.
thing happened and I don't think that this is normal, but I'm being told that, oh, if, you know, I would just react to it differently, then it would be okay. And so having someone say, no, you're not crazy. No, that really is not okay. And really, and that is a thing. And helping me, naming the thing, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
was a very affirming experience for me and one that I had not had prior to that. In working with coaches, it was always, well, maybe you should just try this, even if it was like, well, maybe that doesn't sound right, but maybe it's always you that needs to do something different. And so having someone say, you know, maybe what it is the environment that you're in is not a good one. And
Yeah.
that maybe that's something that you need to think about, you know, the environment. Your environment is not necessarily a good one. How are you going to, what you can change is how you choose to interact with an environment, right?
Yes.
But you can necessarily can't change the environment itself. But first you have to acknowledge that the environment exists. And so having someone be willing to say, yes, this is not a healthy environment for you was really affirming for me. In your view, what qualities should a client look for in their ideal coach? Like someone who's looking for a career break um, coach who also does life coaching,
Yeah.
what, and a lot of times we don't even really know what we're looking for. We have kind of a
Yeah.
sense of what we think we're looking for, but what kind of qualities would you say someone should be looking for if they're thinking, I want to leave my current existence and go travel for 6 months or a year or something
Yeah.
like that?
Absolutely. So, I think there's like the positive side and the negative side, and neither one is wrong, but I think you can come at this from one of two ways, right? On the positive end, you are a person that is just desperate to live more, right? Like when you think about what being alive means, you feel like the life you're living is not that, right? You maybe have the burning desire, like I did, to just see the world, to really know the world, to see more of this amazing place that we inhabit that is can be so limiting in what we see and experience, right? Some of my clients want to write a book. Like sometimes it is a really big dream that takes so much space that you want to really be dedicated to it, and you can't get it done in the 2 or 3 weeks of annual
Right.
vacation time that your company is
Right.
granting, right? So it's like reclaiming, right? It's like reclaiming your life to achieve, do, or experience something. And then I think on the more negative side, which is honestly probably the more relatable one, I feel like more of my clients come from this side. It's like, I feel so burned out. Maybe they feel imprisoned by the life that they have, right? Like it's not just the job, it might be the job with the family members or the dynamic or the lack of friends or the location. Like it can be so many things, but oftentimes the job is sort of the centerpiece of that. But just feeling so tired of feeling like everything is impossible, of feeling like this is not my life, this is not supposed to be my life, but I'm so tired of not knowing how to change that or not knowing how to make the impossible possible. And so I think in that point of wanting and desiring a transition, you don't have to know what it looks like. To your point, like we don't always know, oftentimes don't know exactly what we need. But I
Yeah.
think if at that point you want help, you want support, you want a way for things to feel easier, to feel seen, for things to feel better, right? I think that is where I come in, career break coaching comes in, right? And like you mentioned, I'm also a life coach. And so my whole philosophy is that it's not just about the break. It's not just about changing your environment, because when you change your environment, but you change nothing else, those old thoughts, those old beliefs follow you to your new circumstance, and they can recreate, even though you wouldn't believe it, they can recreate a very similar feeling for you. So it's about breaking patterns, breaking habits, and creating that life from the inside out. So you do change the environment and the circumstance, but you also change yourself and you
Right.
change what you believe. And that is like the most powerful alchemy that you could ever have, right? And so that is what I help people do. And I think, so much of getting the right coach is somebody that you click with. Like you want to be inspired by your coach. You don't necessarily need to live or want to live their exact life, but when you see them, if they light something up in you where you're like, she has some of what I want, you can borrow that belief. You can borrow, that enthusiasm for life, and you will eventually cultivate, your own. And so a lot of people hire me because they really like how I show up in the world and the things that I believe and what I talk about, but also just the energy I bring with it. And I think they desire to have more of that, in their life. And I think ultimately anyone can have success, but you just to hire a coach, period, and to hire me as a coach, like you have to be ready to do the work. You don't have to do it perfectly. You don't have to not have hard moments, but you have to really be ready to do it. You have to be ready to focus on yourself and answer the questions that maybe are hard. And I'm going to ask you to do that, right? So it's like you've got to be ready to do the work. But I think if you are, coaching is where you will thrive. It's where you will basically like hit the gas pedal on life and start heading in the direction you want to go.
Hit the gas pedal on life. I like that a lot. So that being said, what kind of person would you say should hire you as their,
Yeah.
what's the profile of the perfect client? for you?
Oh, that's so good. So I actually work with men and women, and I typically attract people I love. But I really, really love women because I feel like we are burdened with so much more than just the job, right? Like it's the idea of if you have a family, which I have clients that have kids, or if you don't have a family, like what is you know what I mean? There's just so many expectations sort of like placed onto us that I can really relate to. And so I'm really here for people that feel like they've been grinding it out. Women usually, like I would say in 30s to 50s, kind of going through, they've done maybe that first life decision, that first career, and they've hit a wall. Maybe they're at their second one. But I am here for people that are ready to thrive and that just feel like there has to be more. And so, my ideal clients, I feel like they change shape and form, but what they really, my favorite people are people that are just so ready. They are so excited about the possibility. Even if they can't see it, they're like, Katrina, I am ready, girl. Change my life, And it's like, okay, I'm doing it. Right. So I think that attitude takes you so far.
Thank you. So what are you up to right now? What are you doing in the area of life coaching that you would want my audience to know about?
So many things. No, but so my most exciting thing is that I have a workshop in the works, and I've never done a workshop before, but I have done group coaching, and I run a 6-month program called Take the Break, which is for people that want to take a break, but it's only opened once every 6 months. And so we just started the third round. So that's not open right now. So I have asked myself, how can I help more people that want to take a break that have maybe less time or less resources to dedicate to coaching or planning? And so this workshop is my answer to that. So I'm basically boiling down the best of that program into a 1.5 day workshop, and it's going to be coming this fall. So it's still we're still like creating it, but I'm so freaking excited for it. But in the meantime, I have a free training called Best Break Ever, which you can download and watch. And I'm not holding back. Like it is truly me trying to give so much value and perspective on how to think about planning a break, how to create the foundation for a successful break, a simple question you can ask yourself to 10x your break and make it like way better than you even imagined. And so, if that is interesting to you, if you're curious about taking a break, if you want to know more about how to plan one successfully, or just how I approach coaching and how I approach planning a break, that free training is exactly how you could do it.
Wonderful. Katrina, I love your enthusiasm and your personality. I really appreciate you being willing to have this conversation with me. And I look forward to getting to know you better going forward. Thank you so much for your time today and for talking with us about coaching.
Thank you so much for having me. And I genuinely mean that. I think the work you are doing is just so impactful and so necessary. And so thank you for creating this space and this opportunity for so many Black women to really understand what is waiting out there for them so that they can find their freedom, find their version of a better and fuller life. So thank you for this.
Thank you, Katrina McGhee.